Hi, welcome to the Business Expert Series with views and opinions on topical issues facing business owners right now. Today, we're with business owner Jonathan Cohen from Step Accounting. How are you doing, Jonathan?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. If you could start us off by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for, please.
Well, I'm Jonathan Cohen. I'm actually branding as the singing accountant, and I run and own Step Accounting Chartered Accountants. I've been in accountancy services and helping clients through their pain points of compliance, record keeping, taxation, planning, reporting, streamlining their affairs for about 15 years, but recently gone alone. And the branding of the singing accountant came about from working in the creative industries, where a lot of our clients need to believe and appreciate the show must go on. So I do a lot of singing on social media, and it's a bit of a differentiator, should we say.
Definitely. I've seen some of your videos on LinkedIn, and they're very brightening for a Monday morning, especially. I love the videos. So whereabouts are you based? Are you singing around London? Are you around the south? Where's your client base, and kind of where do you operate from?
So my home and office is in Edgware. So I'm quite a local accountant from the point of view of a lot of my clients are North London, but being able to operate all over the UK means that I do have clients further north, and all over, and we can take on clients who are obviously operating all over the UK. I do have some overseas, which is a bit random for a practice like mine, but you can operate, everything's done remotely these days, and there's a lot of automation and online bookkeeping services and things like that makes that quite doable.
Brilliant. So in terms of looking at business owners today and your experience, what do you see as the most common mistakes that business owners make with their finances?
It's interesting you think of them as mistakes. I'm going to look at them as challenges, because let's face it, people do muck up, people do make mistakes. And sometimes it's inherent, as you say, there's a lot of mistakes, but sometimes it's just a challenge that, with the right support, they can overcome. The biggest one I'm going to stick down there is cash flow, because a lot of companies and business owners, in my experience, struggle with that. And it's either at the outset, wondering where to get money from to start up, or it's during trade, where they realize that some clients don't pay as quickly as you might have hoped. And it's things like budgeting, forecasting. And the other one I'll throw in there is the matching the lending options to borrower needs, because some people are funding their operations in the wrong way, or not aware of the different alternatives out there. And together with the team, because I do a lot of networking, that's where the singing takes place, I should tell you, because at a networking event, they will often ask me to sing. But I meet people who are financial brokers, mortgage brokers, lenders, and there's all sorts of corporate finance out there and opportunities that people might not be aware of, from invoice factoring and debt factoring to the idea of, I want to purchase a car, but I can do it on a hire purchase. I can do it on a lease. The second one I'm going to mention is tax awareness. So I find that a lot of people in business have got some tax awareness. They might have, corporation tax rate in their head. It's about to change, so we need to think about that type thing. And certainly for VAT and a lot of the regulations around VAT, there's a lot of uncertainty. So as I say, when we talk about mistakes, it's about a lack of understanding. It's a lack of how can I identify the key figures to streamline my business. It's about how can I have that conversation to better be prepared for planning through cash flow issues, tax awareness, and perhaps even understanding the key figures involved in my business.
Sure thing. Do you see clients or prospective clients, business owners, reviewing these kind of financial aspects on a regular basis, or is it something that they leave to the last minute? How do you find it?
Well, because of GDPR, I can't go into specifics, but there are certainly all sorts. And when I go to a lot of the networking where you're looking for the raw talent, I mean, a lot of the people, if you think in the creative industries, so musicians that are starting out, when you speak to people like that, they do not genuinely generally have a clue about finances, and they're still in that mode of, is it a hobby, is it a business? When I'm dealing with more corporate structures, perhaps someone who's got a few businesses, or they've got property rental income as well as their income on the side, they don't necessarily realize how the things interact, and there it might be more of an ongoing process. And as change happens, so I think it's more likely that a client gets in touch with me when there's a change, when there's something advertised on the news, when there's a new budget, when there's something, coming in on the agenda, if you like. And it's more me contacting them and saying, now, hold on a second, are you aware of this? Are you aware of that? If it's something that's a bit more, less publicized, a bit more perhaps tax focused rather than industry focused. And there's several examples I could bring to light if you want examples of that kind of thing. But I'm thinking of how people are trying to go green. And I'm thinking of how people are trying to think about their use of disposables, certainly in the catering industries and food and leisure. We've got to think about how to change. And sometimes the client will come to me and say, I can't afford this. And some people, it's a case of me approaching them and saying, we need to find a solution. An example like making tax digital would be the other way around. A lot of clients are not aware that they need to be online. Even though some of them are already, even though some of them are compliant, they don't realize that there are legislations coming into place to enforce that and to make that more mandatory, if you like, or more specific. And that's a general change that we can see in the industry that people are going to have to be more compliant with.
That leads us on to the next question pretty nicely in terms of, through your eyes as an accountant, what do you see as the main things that are likely to affect the economy over the next year or so? You see, I suppose there's governmental things, there's just environmental aspects. What, from your point of view, do you see as the main kind of topics or areas for business owners to be looking out for over the next year or so?
It's a massive question. My crystal ball isn't functioning as well as it used to be, but I'm going to mention the doom and gloom and uncertainty, because let's face it, we're all facing the rising cost of living, inflation, recession, woe is unto us, and all the negativity. But what I'm a firm believer of is that necessity is the mother of invention. What we're looking for, and what I love in my profession personally, is the creativity, the innovation, the entrepreneurship that comes about in tough times. So what I'm actually going to suggest is that the most likely thing that's affecting the economy is actually the people, is actually the business owners and those people that can actually set themselves apart and make that difference. There's a lot of support out there for R&D. There's a lot of support out there for getting us back into, for example, film industry and theatre industries picking up, because the government has realised we need to encourage, we need to empower. We need to get these creative, innovative entrepreneurs back into the driving seat for our economy. And I think that's powerful and massive. And that's what could drive us through the wars, through the recessions, through the cost of living increases.
Brilliant. I really like that. That kind of positive mindset and that attitude, because it's the people that are going to make the success of the opportunities and driving things through, definitely. And again, that kind of leads us on to the next question very nicely about yourself, really, and being a business and what it is that you've learned to date. What would be your biggest lesson if you could pick one through what you've experienced so far on your business journey?
Oh, picking one. See, I tend to think of I think in threes. I don't know why.
Three, go for three. Go on then. Yeah.
So the main thing I learned starting out was that people do business with people. I think it's a really massive lesson about be someone you would want to work with, be authentic, be integral, be you. Following on from that is the concept of building a team around you. Yeah, I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of soundboarding, if you like, with teams and with people going through similar situations, or even in different industries that are starting out or at the same stage in their business growth as me. You can network, you can support, and quite powerfully, you can knowledge share. And the third one I want to mention is that vision, passion, and drive. It's so important to know where you're heading, have that kind of direction, have that idea of this is something that excites me, this is something that makes me want to get up in the morning, this is something that makes me want to push forwards for me, for my clients, for my staff, for my team. And if you've got those things in hand, you're most of the way there.
Brilliant. Good share. Thank you very much for that. So in terms of changing it slightly, what inspires you to do what you do? What inspiration do you have, maybe currently or in the past, have you used, whether it's something you read, the team, the people you work with, friends, family, anything like that? Feel free to share.
It's interesting. What inspires me to do what I do is depend how you define what I do. I've got a love of the explaining the numbers. I think there's something about the fact that a lot of people out there, maybe some of the people listening to this today, find it difficult to look at a number and get meaning from that. I'm the opposite. If anything, I was going to become a maths teacher rather than an accountant. To me, it's explaining the numbers. Behind a number, there's a story. And it could be to do with the progression. It could be to do with comparing it to other industries, to other companies. It could be just explaining it in a sense of in comparison to other numbers on the sheet. But a love of explaining the numbers and giving clarity and understanding to somebody who looks at it like it's, you know, a foreign language. Okay. The other parts of what I do, though, I love bringing musical theatre into the world of business. I love this differentiation, this idea that you can turn up to a networking meeting as a human being, and I will talk to people who've got a guitar in the attic, and I'll say, why aren't you playing that guitar? What's happened? And he says to me, well, maybe I could. And I said, well, we'll do a duet. You can hear where this story is heading, but I'm still waiting for the time that I book it with him. We'll get there. And the idea that we're all people. So I'm inspired to be me in business. And I think that's quite a powerful thing, and encourage other people to be themselves. And the last one that I say is a massive drive for me is this education. It's not just explaining the numbers the day to day and looking at the accounts. It's the educating people how to run your business, how to do things properly, how to be compliant. And as part of Step Accounting's mantra, we help people to take the next step. We help you step up. We help you step forward, step out, step along. I don't want to get too cheesy with the step analogies, but you can hear why I picked the brand name and why it resonates.
I can tell you.
There's something about educating and passing on knowledge, and the knowledge share, I think, is a very powerful concept that if more of us adopted, I think we'd all be able to learn and grow from one another, and the world would be a better place.
Brilliant. And again, leading nicely into the next question about what impact you want to have in your community. I think there's a bit of it summarized there from what you've just said. But again, if there's anything to expand upon in terms of the business community that you work in, what kind of impact do you want to have there, as well as bringing joy and singing to that community?
Well, that was going to be the roundup. There's a knowledge share. So this concept of the fact that we all know something, even if you feel that your knowledge is a little bit limited or you've made mistakes along the way, it's so much easier to learn from someone else's mistakes than to make them yourself. So sharing knowledge, even if you don't feel you've got the knowledge to share, I think is powerful. And I think all of us can learn from one another. Education, it's a similar kind of mindset, but I think that is the biggest impact I can have, is to educate my clients, educate my staff, educate my teams, educate my contacts and my networking groups and support groups. And the final one is obviously the entertainment. Because let's face it, are we working to live or living to work? I like to think we're working so that we can enjoy ourselves. And if there's a way of enjoying ourselves as we work, if we can make it into a bit of a song and a dance, if we can whistle while we work, why aren't we doing that?
Love that. What a great point to end on. Jonathan, absolutely fantastic to talk to you. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best for the future with Step Accounting.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thanks for having me.